It's day whatever in the Antonio Conte saga at Tottenham, and he has still somehow not been sacked, despite literally saying that he thinks everything there is crap. The board, the players, the tea ladies had enough of absolutely all of it. It's not good enough for Antonio Conte. The final straw for him was obviously that 3-3 at Southampton, but is he right? Is he the problem? Are they the problem? Well, here, for your viewing pleasure, I have Tottenham Hotspur as they theoretically exist under Antonio Conte. Now, I'll just overlay it with the 11 that he's had at his disposal most this season. So not his idealised 11, obviously that would have Bentancur, that would have Pedro Porro in, but these are the players he's had to work with most this season. If we just take a look, there's a little interesting thing about this. We've got three centre-backs here, one of which obviously is a bit of a bruiser, who's on the fringes of the England squad, and the other has secretly been converted from a fullback. Then in the midfield, he's clearly gone for work rate over creativity. These are two players who can sit deep and can help sort of move the ball forward, but aren't really going to create many chances. Then up front, he's got two players who would much rather be playing wide, and a centre-forward who is absolutely excellent at scoring goals and over 6 foot tall. And if you're sitting there looking at that going, hang on Adam, there's something going on in my brain about the words Antonio Conte and just what you described there. Well, let's magically overlay this all blue and ta-da! That's Antonio Conte's Chelsea team. We've got three centre-backs, one a bit of a bruiser on the fringe of the England squad and another who's been converted from fullback. Two very functional centre midfielders who are going to be really good at like making everything go deep but won't really create too much going the other way. And we've got a front three here comprised of two players who would much rather be playing slightly wider and one of the best goal scorers of his generation who is over 6 foot tall. And of course the problem with Tottenham's Antonio Conte is that Tottenham's Antonio Conte secretly wishes every single morning when he gets out of bed that he was still Chelsea's Antonio Conte. He is trying to more or less recreate shot for shot the movie that won him the Premier League all those many years ago, except this time it's having meagre results. And I'll tell you for why. So what Conte believes in as a manager is sitting as deep and as compact as possible, retaining the ball in areas that your opposition are going to want to try and press, and then moving it up the field quickly to attack all of this space that press has left. And how they do that is they will go as deep as any other team in the league. You end up with this weird sort of like what's a triangle with four sides that isn't a square when it's like that way? Is it a rhombus? Let's call it a rhombus. They end up with this kind of rhombus here where one of the centre-backs will go pretty much onto the goal line, one of the midfielders will drop just ahead of him, and the other two centre-backs, they'll sort of allow these passing angles for them to knock it around. That then hopefully creates space for them to get it into the midfield or into one of the fullbacks, but eventually they're looking to play a ball into these spaces, what a pass that is, to allow Son, Kane, Kulusevski, whoever's on the pitch, to break in and score. Now that's plan A. Plan A is to hit these big counter-attacks into this space. Spurs have scored a handful of these this season. Obviously, it's never as simple as that. So what then happens when they move the ball up the pitch is this. All right, so your counter-attack didn't lead directly to a goal. Fair enough, that's going to happen most of the time. But now, what you've got is you are attacking, you're in your opponent's final third, but only a couple of seconds ago, they were in yours. So the idea then is you exploit the chaos. You exploit the fact they're not properly set. Let's say this guy, your fullback here, let's say he was the guy who put the cross into the box that forced the turnover. He's probably not all the way back into position yet, so you've got an attacker who's come over to fill in. And if you've got an attacker who's come over to fill in, he's probably not as good defensively, so you can target that area, you can play around him, you can invite him into a challenge that a fullback wouldn't normally be stupid enough to make, and that can create a bit of space for you. Hey, maybe you got really lucky. Maybe it was from a corner and one of the centre-backs is still trotting back, so there's a centre midfielder here who's, oh no, he's only like 5'9", and I don't know what somebody weighs in pounds, 10 pounds or something like that, so you can bully him off the ball, you can out-jump him in the air, you can use the fact that they are not defensively set to create opportunities. But even again, that doesn't happen as often as it should. Teams are drilled into getting back into defensive position, so while you might get a direct counter-attack goal a slim amount of the time, you might get a goal created from the chaos another small amount of the time, the vast majority of the time, no matter what your tactics are, you are going to have to try and break down a defensive unit. And just spoil it for the next couple of seconds, this is the entire problem Spurs have had this season. So now the opposition, they've gone deep, they've gone compact, they're not letting Tottenham have the space. It's up to them to find a way to break this down without there being the space in behind that they want to play in. And again, let's go back to that team that Conte has set out most of the season. You've not got much creativity in your two midfielders. Their job is to be solid and dependable and help progress the ball upfield, not to play killer passes in the final third. You've got two wide attackers, but they start very centrally compared to how you would normally expect players in a 4-3-3. So they're not in a position where they can take a fullback on and get around, or they're not in a position where they can get a run on somebody to receive a through ball. So what does that leave you with? If you can't play the killer pass and you can't find a really good run, what does that leave you with in the system? It leaves you with the wing backs. But Antonio Conte believes you cross the ball in these scenarios as your absolute last resort. Plan A, you sit deep, you hit them on the counter, you run clean through and you score a goal. Plan B, you don't quite manage to do that, but you end up attacking a team that is not correctly set and is full of mistakes and errors and small people where there should be big people. Option 3, the last option, is you cross the ball. And the reason Conte believes that is kind of sensible. Like, if you're in possession, you're going to give the ball away sooner or later anyway. So if you can't find a way through, if you can't find the killer pass, you're as well just lumping it into the box where now he's got Harry Kane, previously he had Diego Costa, 2 players who could conceivably get a chance out of that environment. And if they don't, then maybe it gets headed out for a throw-in. Maybe you get a corner out of it. Maybe the goalkeeper just takes it. Either way, you create 3 situations where you can quite easily get all the way back, reset, and start the whole process all over again. Whereas if you just keep trying to pass it around the edge of their box, sooner or later, someone's going to intercept it in a position where, oh no, you're in deep shit. Like, oh no, it's been an errant pass, there's been an interception, and all of a sudden, hoisted by your own petard, the other team now have all this space to play in. He's away. That's a great ball, or he did his best to cut it out, and oh no, we've conceded from the very thing we were trying to do. And that's been the whole problem with Tottenham this season, because crossing it into the box in their system is the absolute Papa Roach last resort, and yet no team in the Premier League has put in more crosses into the box this season than Tottenham Hotspur. So it's all well and good for me to sit here and talk about they've got this system and it's what they like to do, and it actually sounds kind of exciting. And ooh, doesn't it remind you of this team that actually won the league all those years ago? The problem they've got is that system does not work. And why doesn't it work? Well, now we flip the coin the other way. It is actually the players. So I just set Spurs back up again the way they've been this season. The problem they've got is that these players do not play this system. They don't play Conte ball as well as they need to play Conte ball. Just to go back to the Chelsea comparison, again, 2 functional midfielders. Like, that Chelsea team that Conte had Cesc Fabregas in it, and the actual starters were Matic and Kante. Because what do Matic and Kante do that Fabregas doesn't? They will sit on the edge of their own box, they will win the ball back, they will help progress it up the field, and they don't need to create anything when they get in the final third because there's much better players around them who'll do that. Moses and Alonso were great that year for sort of getting wide, getting those crosses in, but also coming in and like dealing with the play on the edge of the box at the same time. And those are just not the players Spurs have, either not in terms of the quality they have or not in terms of their suitability for this system. Bentancur's obviously where this argument slightly falls down. He's an excellent player for this system, but he got injured in February and he's going to miss the entire rest of the season, so you can forget about him. Basuma obviously had something, but he started as many games this season as Skip has, and against Southampton it was Højbjerg and Skip. Again, 2 functional players who'll do a similar sort of Kante-Matic job, but just nowhere near that well. And the most damning thing about all of this, right, for all the advantages of this system, for how it allows you to compress the space in your own half and then get right in your opponent's faces, Tottenham absolutely suck at doing that. The number of tackles won in the middle third of the pitch, where most tackles in a game take place, Tottenham ranked bottom of the entire Premier League. That is pathetic. Now, just full disclosure, Manchester City are 3rd bottom of that particular table, but that is because they have so much of the goddamn ball, they don't need to win it back all that often. Tottenham sit incredibly deep. Their entire job is winning it back in that part of the pitch, and they are the worst in the league at doing it. And I should have addressed this at the start of the video. At the time of Conte leaving the club, potentially, they were 4th in the table. And I think if you'd asked any Spurs fan at the start of the year, you're right with 4th, you're happy with 4th this year? They'd probably gone, oh yeah, 4th, different, oh, back in the Champions League, oh yeah. But the problem is the way they've played. As I say, stick so many crosses into the box. Spurs fans know they have not by any stretch of the imagination been the 4th best side in the Premier League. The only reason they're there is this man. 21 goals in the Premier League for Harry Kane this season, but off a staggering XG of just over 15. Like, I know people have problems with the XG system, but if you go by that number, he is overperforming the number of goals he should be getting by 6 or 7. Goals that have been worth 7 or 8 points to them this season, and if you take those points away, they would be below Brentford in 8. Now, yes, I can hear your dad screaming at the laptop that it doesn't matter if you overperform, that's just what happens sometimes. Load of bloody stat nonsense, you can't jerk the points off them, and he is correct. But to Spurs fans, this is important because this is supposedly the 4th best team in the league, and they're not. The numbers and their eyes back up the fact that they're a reasonably average mid-table team. So then when they watch press conferences where Conte is like, oh, this club doesn't share my ambition, I want to be challenging for things, and I want to do this, and I want to do that, they're sitting there going, I mean, agree, so I'm with you in principle, but also, I watch us, and it's not the club's ambition that's the problem, it's the way we play football. And that's created this massive bit of tension between Conte and the fan base. They don't like him particularly. He thinks that they don't give him enough credit. That's why it's been a strained marriage, and that's why it ended up in him snapping and doing the Vida Coco Loco in the press conference. And I'll tell you why he's angry. Like, the very simple reason for why he's angry is Conte clearly, as I've demonstrated, pat on the back, well done me, has a very clear tactical vision for how football teams should play. He's not one of these managers that just goes, oh, I'll try this week, I'll try that week. He believes believes football should be played this way. He believes this system he has, he was always going to do this at Tottenham, and if they were going to hire him, they then needed to back him. And by that I mean, get rid of the players that don't fit this system particularly well and replace them, however expensively, with players who do. And they have a bit, like you would say Bentancur, Kulusevski, Porro, Bissouma, they do fit this system really well, but he hasn't really been able to get them on the pitch all that much. Porro's brand new, some of the others have been injured, and there have been other signings like Richarlison, which clearly had nothing to do with him. And also, whisper this, they've not sold the players that they probably should have sold. I think Son's one of the best players in the Premier League, but he clearly doesn't really fit this system and he's struggling, and they should have got loads of money for him. I mean, you can't say that too loud because you say, oh, they should sell Son, and people go, you're an idiot, buddy, but look at him. So bottom line, the reason Antonio Conte is absolutely out of his tree is because he's probably come into this club and received assurances about what he'd be allowed to do here, and clearly if you look at the system, you look at the players, you look at everything that's gone wrong, that has not happened. But the reason Spurs fans aren't on his side, not turning their eye at the owners just yet, is because, well, okay, you didn't get the players you wanted to get, you can't do the system you want to do, you're meant to be one of the elite managers of European football, adapt. So who is to blame, which I think is going to be the title of this video, haven't really decided yet. Well, Daniel Levy, sorry, if you're going to get a manager in with a very clear vision for the club, let him do the vision for the club, or don't get him in. Not Antonio Conte, who wants to recreate Chelsea from the other year, but doesn't have the players to do it. Anyway, if you're a Spurs fan, or lol, even if you're not, let me know what you make of all this in the comments below. Maybe send it to your Spurs supporting friends and going, this guy's got it. This guy's got Conte's number. And once you've done that, don't forget to subscribe to 442 on YouTube, because we're having an absolute blast over here, and we'll be having an absolute blast again. Oh, would you look at that, tomorrow. So hopefully I will see you then, but in the meantime, thank you so much for watching. I have, of course, been Adam Cleary, and I'll see you soon. Bye. Bye, Antonio. Bye. And that's it. That's the video. Thank you so very much for watching and making it all the way till the end. Somebody's keen. While you're here, please do consider subscribing to the 442 YouTube channel. We've got loads of awesome football content dropping all through the week, as well as an amazing library of documentaries, player interviews, and performance guides as well. Until next time, though, thank you once again for watching. I do hope you enjoyed yourself, and I'll see you soon. Goodbye.